right, welcome everybody to March's steering committee. Steering committee is a monthly meeting that happens usually on the fourth Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. UTC. The last meeting happened March 7th because a number of folks from the core team and other folks from the steering committee and the community were all at ETH Denver. So we pushed that meeting back 1 week, which is why we've had a couple of steering committees kind of back to back. So again, I know that we've had a number of discussions that were talked about last meeting, and there's been a number of things going on. So we will go through the typical agenda. Again, if anybody wants to track what happens with previous steering committee meetings, you can see all the notes, transcripts and recordings are available for each meeting. And so again, people can get involved and get up to date as to what's going on month over month. As we'd like to start our agenda, the first thing we usually do is review, discuss, and address any community feedback, grievances, or conflicts related to special interest groups, working groups, or otherwise. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about or discuss related to community feedback or how the community groups are being run currently? Cool. All right. Continuing to move along with the agenda. After we go through, again, any grievances or discuss anything related to community feedback, the group goes over projects list, which you can find both in the Akash Network organization /projects. There are 2 boards that are open to the public that, again, are focused on community and marketing initiatives, where bounties also live, as well as a product and engineering roadmap. We're going to start with the community and marketing board because I know there's a number of events that have happened since the last steering committee. So again, starting us off with the completed, and I'll kick it over to Adam in Q1 of 2024 for the events proposal. There was KubeCon EU that happened in Paris. At the same time, there was also NVIDIA GTC that happened in California. The Akash Network had a great presence at both of these events. And so, Adam, I want to kick it over to you to see if you want to talk a little bit at a high level about NVIDIA GTC, or if anybody that was on the ground there wants to talk a little bit more, and then also KubeCon, now that those items are completed. So, Adam, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, sure. Just a quick kind of update on both. So NVIDIA, GTC, and KubeCon was the first ever kind of Akash-sponsored Web 2 events. And I think there was a lot of really great key learnings from each. We did retros for each of those yesterday and the day before. We've also collected a handful of leads from different individuals that were really interested in what Akash offers at both events. And I'd have to confirm on GTC, but at least at KubeCon, Akash was really the only kind of crypto project. So I think there was just a lot of interest from attendees there. I do think it's something we want to review for going forward if we want to attend either of those events in terms of what we'd want to do and kind of goals and outcomes. But for the first time sponsoring these Web 2 events, I think there's a lot of really good learnings gained from each. So that's the quick and fast update on both those events.
Excellent. Again, if anybody has any questions about follow-up from NVIDIA GTC or KubeCon, feel free to drop down the working group for the events 2024 Discord channel. There's also working group sessions that can be spun up to talk more about events, and especially as we move into Q2, Q3, and beyond. I know that that's something that's going to be high priority because of all the success from ETH Denver, KubeCon, and some of these other events that have already happened this quarter. Cool. If there's no questions there, does anyone else that attended those events want to talk about it at all? Because I know there was a number of folks from the community and insiders. If not, no worries, and we can just continue to move on. Cool. All right, moving along. One thing that did pass on chain since the last steering committee meeting was Akash Accelerate. So I know this is something that's been talked about in multiple SIGs and working groups. Adam, I'll kick it back to you to talk about where we are currently and some of the next steps.
Yep, absolutely. So we're at a good spot. Governance proposal is passed. We've locked in our events production organization. So we had a kickoff call with them this week. It was great. We're going to be hosting one meeting per week and lead up to Akash Accelerate. Right now, we're just figuring out which venue we want to attend and get involved in, and then also thinking through kind of some of the logistics of the events. But onboarding the event production company is the biggest step to kind of get everything moving. We have about 2 months before Akash Accelerate actually takes place. And after talking with them, I feel very comfortable that we'll be able to get everything in place for the main event. There'll be more updates kind of in the future. If you're curious about the Akash Accelerate, head over to the events working group channel in Discord, because that's where I'll be posting a lot of public announcements. And we also launched a temporary Akash Accelerate channel just for general updates for community members that might be interested in attending that event or maybe getting more involved. But currently, we're at a really good spot.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions related to Akash Accelerate that they want to discuss right now? All right, cool. Continuing to ask Adam a number of questions. I know this is something that Adam is also working on related to the Akash 2024 hackathons. I believe the first one is scheduled for early April, and there's already a committee together that's working on various sponsored tracks. But Adam, I want to kick it back to you. Is there anything that you want to talk about high level in terms of the 2024 Akash hackathons?
For sure, this is the Adam show. I'm into it. So yeah, on the hackathon side, I think we're at a really good spot. We've drafted the first draft of the hackathon tracks. A majority of the tracks are going to be focused on AI and GPUs, which I think will be really, really interesting and bring a lot of attendees. Once we confirm the hackathon tracks, the next step is to connect with DoraHacks, which will be our hackathon kind of tool. And where all registered attendees will sign up to participate in the hackathon. So once we confirm those hackathon tracks, I'm hoping in the next 48 hours or so, we're going to create the website. And then by next week, we should have the website up and going where people can RSVP and register for the hackathon. And then if all systems go, the week after next is when we'll actually launch this. And it'll be open for a month and a half. And that's the update on the hackathon.
Excellent. I know, again, as more details become available, we'll share those details in Discord and other ways so folks can know exactly what's going on as it pertains to the Akash 2024 hackathons. But are there any other comments related to hackathons before we continue to move on? Cool. All right. I'm not sure if Dennis is on, but I do see Zach. I know this is something that members of the core team have been working on, along with folks from the working group for the website around GPU pricing page. Zach, do you want to talk a little bit about this page as it currently stands and some of the next steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So the goal for this was to put a pricing page together so that when people are coming to Akash, they want to know quickly what GPUs do you have on the network, what are the prices for those GPUs, and what are the availability. So this page that we put together, over time, but really, pushing on it in the last 48 hours, is to bring all that information together and make it really easy to find on the website. It sounds like Dennis isn't here, but Dennis has done a lot of great work in restructuring the heroes section of the website so that it's really easy for new users to come in and see these CTAs, these calls to action that are now, there's 3 of them on the homepage in the hero section. You can come in, you can see the parts of the network, and with the launch of this pricing page, you'll be able to quickly see the availability. There's still some work that we're putting in just right at the last minute to get this fully ready to launch, but it is live on the website right now. So it's akash.network/GPUs if you want to check it out. I would ask that maybe you'd hold off on sharing it for just a second until we fully complete it, but that should be, in the next 24 to 48 hours that it's completely done. So this solves a big pain point that we've had over time of making sure that people know that these high performance GPUs are on Akash, and now there's a really easy way to figure out what the availability is and how much they cost. So this will unlock, tremendous demand in terms of awareness.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Zach. One thing I do want to call out as it pertains to some information on the pricing page, and then Scott, just listen to me to make sure I'm saying this correctly. But there is elements on the pricing page that require GPU providers to upgrade to have feature discovery available. If you see anybody that is maybe behind on upgrades, or you know of anybody in the community that has GPUs and has maybe not been following Discord, it'd be great to push them towards a provider announcements channel and towards documentation for feature discovery, so that, again, they can add that feature to their providers, which will continue to improve the GPU pricing page. Scott, anything that you need to add there based upon what I just said? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. So we only have a handful of providers that aren't upgraded. So yeah, we've put out announcements and reached out to those providers directly. So yeah, we're in very good shape and just have a handful of remaining providers to get on feature discovery.
Excellent. Yes, thank you very much. All right. I know there are a number of other items that are actively being worked on by members of the community, by members of the core team that are on this board. I know, again, onboarding program for Zelia is underway, and there's been a number of working group sessions, and there's been a number of updates. I think even at the last steering committee, Robert gave an update on Zelia. Is there anything, Robert, that you want to talk about specifically with Zelia here today, or following that, is there any other items on this board that anybody wants to discuss at a high level with this group here today before we move on to the product and engineering board? Go ahead, Robert.
Hey guys, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, about Celia, I'll be short. Benji and I are getting ready to close out the first sprint. It's crazy to see the numbers of engagements. This same week, we had a call and we saw some stats since we have now the Celia analytics available. And we're just wrapping everything up to close out the first sprint and share more details in the working group call, which is happening next Monday. But yeah, long story short, just closing out the first sprint, getting ready for the second sprint, and stay tuned for the working group call next Monday.
Excellent. Yeah, if anybody wants to get involved in missions or wants to learn about how things are going related to Zelia, please feel free to join that working group call. Again, the group discusses missions that get added to Zelia, as well as engagement, funnel, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to get involved, Robert and Ben do a great job of leading those calls. And again, it's a good group of people that usually join.
Thanks, Tyler.
Again, I know there's a number of items on this board. I just want to highlight some of the things that I think are top priority. Is there anything else on the community and marketing initiatives board that anybody wants to discuss before we move on to quickly go over the product and engineering roadmap? I saw Andrew's hand first and then Roger. So Andrew, you go first.
Yeah, hi everyone. So bit of an update on my side. I am now at Spheron Network, which many of you may know or may not know is a deployment platform straight onto the Akash Network. And I wanted to just let everyone know that in the coming months, we have established and are starting a partnership with Subspace. And Subspace is in testnet right now, and they have a rather large following. And the spec of the workload coming is very similar to the Chia workload. So they're looking at mainnet in the coming months, and just kind of a heads up. Again, Spheron is already established a partnership with them in testnet, and we're going to be bringing some of their community members on board now to do benchmarking and figure out the best pricing for the Subspace plots, because again, it is a very similar format to Chia. So Just to give everyone a heads up on that. Again, looking forward to seeing that grow on Akash.
Andrew, I have a question about Speron.
Yeah.
So your founder recently made an announcement that we're not supporting, that he wants Akash to mention Speron in every tweet we do. And he publicly said Speron is moving away from Akash because we're not giving him credit for everything we do. What's your response since you're representing Speron here?
Yeah, so there has been a bit of an update on that. I understand that I'm new to this situation between Spheron and Akash and that relationship. And one of the first things that we just started to do about 2 weeks ago is establish that communication pipeline, namely through Tyler, where Tyler and I are now having a bi-weekly call on how we can better properly integrate ourselves into the ecosystem. Because quite frankly, again, I can't speak for our CEO and what he's said on Twitter, but I can speak for what, moving forward, we are planning to do, which is not speak on Twitter about any of that stuff, and specifically go through the proper channels to integrate our application into the right places out on the network.
And second issue I had was about the reducing the deposit requirements from 5 AKT to more optimal number, which I believe now is 0.5 AKT.
Yes, that's great. It's exactly what kind of unblocked the issue, which was we are scaling thousands of deployments, which have a very large tax now, and that has been resolved. So problem solved and not an issue anymore at all. And so everything's fine there. Yeah.
That sounds good. Can I expect a tweet from Speron saying that this problem has been solved? Because last time they made it a big deal about this problem, even though
Sure.
it's a proposal that anyone can make on chain. And I'm not clear why, if Speron had an issue with that, with 5 AKT, what prevented Speron to make the proposal? Because it's permissionless, anyone can make these proposals. And the argument was, oh, since anyone can do it, why don't you do it? So I feel like there is this sort of like attitude of us versus them, even though Akash is open and owned by the community. As you see here, everybody is contributing in this. Robert, everybody is contributing, right? As you go to our conferences, it's not Akash core team, it's community that has more presence than core team. So Akash is a community owned project. Everybody has a responsibility to contribute or to modify if they see something that they don't want to. And I believe the community has been very open in terms of accepting a lot of proposals. So is there any particular reason why making a proposal was not possible by Speron and expectation of someone else doing it was?
Yes. So I will speak to this again. Quite frankly, again, it sounds like there was a breakdown in communication in the past. The way forward now is a bi-weekly call between Tyler and myself. We're trying to get the right people who can be effective to these issues and understand how to approach them with the organization and its structure. Quite frankly, that, what you are talking about was not, perfectly translated on the other side. And again, we have now put in place the right people to be talking about and handling that. And quite frankly, again, these past issues and things that were said in the past are not blockers or issues anymore. As I had noted, we are the largest hyperscaler of deployments on that side. So that was a issue which the team at the time did not currently understand the mechanisms to solve that problem with. So again, moving forward, I'm looking forward to repairing that connection and making sure that we're doing things effectively to represent ourselves to the ecosystem rather than talking on Twitter. We want to be educating about, what the features are of the Spheron network in the proper places. So that's the plan moving forward where, again, we're not looking to continue that conversation of the past. We're looking to implement and execute in the ecosystem so that users are aware we take credit cards, right? You can deploy on the public Akash network right now with Visa, MasterCard, and an Amex. Those are features that are super important for the growth of the network, and we want to continue that relationship in a positive way now that there is new structure to how we move forward, which is bi-weekly calls, communicating with Tyler effectively and as execution focused as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for the commitment, and
Yep.
a tweet will be great as well.
Yes, I will. I will follow up with that and see what I can do. But that does not sound unreasonable at all. And again, an effective partnership and cooperation is, definitely going to be the way to go with our solves for deployments and for hyperscaling deployments and reaching new heights there.
Excellent. I know that there's some hands up. I just want to make it clear. I let that conversation go on because I think it's an important conversation to have during the steering committee. But we do have an agenda that we like to follow. There is an area at the end where we can talk about some of the stuff in detail. So as we continue to move forward, I want us to be weary of that because again, we still have to go through discussions and a number of other items. So again,
thank you, Tyler. Yes, I think
that
I
was an
answered
important discussion to have.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw Raju's hand up, but maybe Anil had something that you want to talk about specifically related to that before we go to Raju's question and then move on to the product and engineering board. Anil, do you want to go first and then I'll follow up with Raju?
Sure, and we can certainly take this up later, but what I was curious about, Andrew, because you're on the call, and thanks for joining the call, by the way. We've always wanted somebody from Spheron to join these calls, and we haven't had any representation, so it's nice that you're joining these. What I was curious about was, it's awesome that you guys are driving a bunch of leases on the network. What I'm curious about is, are all the leases going back to providers that are managed by Spheron? And is Akash being used primarily as an orchestration tool in the middle? Or is the intention to actually deploy some of those workloads onto other providers as well? But again, we can take this off.
I would invite you to become a user on Spheron. Head on over, sign up with email. We support email sign up. We support GitHub signups. All of the standard authentication methods, and you will see what features we offer. And specifically, to answer your question, there are 3 styles of deployments on the Spheron network. Those are auto scaling. We have an on-demand, and then we have a spot deployment. The spot deployments go to the public Akash network. Auto scaling and on-demand are going to Spheron providers that can support more features like increasing memory of a running deployment. That's one of the features, or auto scaling deployments. Those are additional features that the Spheron providers can support. So I invite you again to go try the platform, and you will see that you can deploy on the public network, and you can also deploy on Spheron providers with additional features that are not supported on the public network.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've used it 8 times, by the way.
Yep. There are 3 styles of deployment.
Yeah, you'll probably see my user account created about a year ago on Spheron, and I've given Prashant a bunch of feedback on the Discord channel a bunch of times over the last year. But yeah, I'll take a look at it again. The last time I checked, it was purely Spheron providers, but I'll go back and check again. Thanks.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to kill this conversation for now. I know that we can continue to have one of the things that Andrew and I have talked about is having Spheron represented at SIG clients where we can go into depth, and folks that are actively thinking about these kinds of things can come together and ask specific questions. So again, the steering committee is really focused on the high level objectives, and I just want to make sure we get to all those things. Rodri, is there something that you want to talk about on the community and marketing initiatives board? I know you've had your hand up for a while before we move on to the product and engineering board.
Hey guys, I'll make it super quick. I was just going to add a little about KubeCon. I was expecting a lot of people standing or going by the booth, but we had a lot more than I expected. We reached our lead goal like 75% on the first day. We even had people from Google, AWS, and Hessner approach the booth. People who already knew about Akash, and I think we're gonna get more users, both deploying and providers, and some of them already knew about the AKT token, and lots of interest there. And I thought it was a great success, and we should attend more of those. We really didn't have many free time at the booth, and even all of the people who were there, we were busy talking to different guys at the same time. So just wanted to add to that a bit.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Continuing to move along. Again, as a part of the projects list, we also go over things that are on the product and engineering board. SHM, I know, is something that's in testing and should be live over the next day or so. The documentation is done. There's been rigorous testing done by a number of folks from the core team and elsewhere. And so that is something that, again, you should see announcements in Discord and other channels very soon, making that available. I know that, again, private repos is something that is also something the community's been asking for a long time, and this is code complete. I believe is going to be moved into testing early next week. It's been preliminary tested, but again, there will be some further testing done next week. So I know that those are two items that are, again, should be moving to released very, very shortly, hopefully before the next steering committee monthly meeting. So I just want to call those out. I know that the Maxes have been doing a fair amount of work. As Zach mentioned, related to GPU page, there's been some API endpoint work that's been done. That work has been talked about in SIG clients yesterday, as well as SIG providers. So again, I don't want to rehash the same thing that's been talked about in detail last couple of days, but I know this work is ongoing by the Max team, and again, should be moved over to release sometime over the next couple of days after a couple of things are fine-tuned. I know those are the most pressing high priority items that engineering are working on. I know there's a number of product relationships that are happening with a number of POCs. Anil, Scott, is there anything that you all want to call out as it pertains to the product engineering roadmap before I open up to questions about product and engineering focused projects? Go ahead, Anil.
Yeah, don't want to get too much in the weeds, but just want to mention at a high level that the SHM size thing is super important because most of the people that use Akash for AI type workloads today need to be able to specify a custom SHM size, and that blocks a bunch of customers, and that's why that's a high priority. So, providers upgrading and supporting this is really appreciated. And then on the GPU pricing endpoint, the thing to keep in mind there is no way to directly pull GPU prices directly from the providers itself today. So there's a workaround solution that Maxi and MaxP have worked out, which is fairly close to the actual pricing of the GPU, but it won't be 100% exactly what you set on the GPU pricing. I don't want to go into the weeds of how that is being implemented, but if there's anybody that has questions about it, we can take it offline. And then private registry support, the only thing I'll mention there is the folks from Human HQ, they did a demo yesterday about a solution that they're building about how they can improve Docker builds and deployments on Akash. And they talked about supporting private registries in that same context. So we should probably get with them and figure out if there's any conflicts between what we implement here versus what they implement. And that's it. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Anil. Yeah, much appreciate you bringing it up. Yeah, at the SIG clients meeting yesterday, there was a demo And we'll talk about a little bit of discussions, but again, great to have folks at that special interest group talking specifically, both Human HQ team as well as NetADAO. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I haven't been on this call in a bit, so sorry for chiming in with a bunch of info today. But I have had on the back burner a benchmarking API that solves this question on pricing, because it does live real deployments, right? And so the best way to get the price of a GPU is check what the provider's offering for it every few hours, right? And so once I get my ducks in a row, that code is already done. It just needs to be set up and turned on. And I do have a use case for it that I'm not ready to talk about just yet today, but it should be known that there will be an API available at some point with the price of a deployment on a provider that includes two prices, one with GPU, one without. And yeah, we can extrapolate from that single deployment what they price things at and figure it all out. So this has been done. I just need a little bit extra motivation to get behind it, and it's around the corner. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Anil, I saw your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, won't take a lot of time, but Andrew, that's really great that you have had the solution. It would have been nice to know about this, because that's literally what Max C, who I see is not on the call, I'm speaking for him, but that's literally what he has implemented in the last few days. Is basically
Well,
doing
if you look back, I've mentioned this in previous discussions, and this was actually something that I had worked on previously before in the last 6 months that I was at Akash as well. So this has been something in my wheelhouse for quite a while, and I can't speak to how it was missed or you missed it. So
okay. Well, I mean, that's exactly the solution that is implemented now, and that's what we're using for the pricing page.
right. Well, I don't work for Akash, so as I said, if there was some form of extra, I need to align it with my timeframes and my projects otherwise. So if you want it done or need extra support, you can reach out to me for it. Yep.
There's also a public framework on how, especially the stuff that's open source, we figure out, how to incentivize, so I would ask that you continue to follow that open framework that everybody else from the community follows. Cool. Is there any other topics related to product and engineering roadmap that anybody on this call wants to discuss before we move into the discussion section? All right. Cool. Going back to the agenda again, during this portion, we review any new discussions that have happened since the last steering committee meeting. There are a set of criteria that we hold folks to so that we're not wasting time during the steering committee. We ask the folks that are participating or leading those discussions attend those meetings. We ask, and this is something that we saw in previous discussions, if you are putting up a discussion on GitHub, the onus is on you to rally the community to contribute to that discussion. If you are rallying the community and there's nobody else that wants to get involved in the discussion, that's usually a clear-cut sign. That's not something that the community is necessarily interested in. And then maybe it's time to collect ideas, go back to the drawing board and come up with a new discussion. So again, that would be the way that I would ask folks to move forward, is if you put up a discussion on GitHub and you want people to interact with it because you want it to move forward, then please, again, let people know what the discussion is about. Don't get into the weeds where people have no idea what's going on. Just high level, what you're trying to accomplish, why it improves the Akash network, how it improves the Akash network, and then ask people to contribute to the discussion. And by comments, by upvotes, by all that kind of stuff, and consistent communication during the special interest groups and working groups, then again, the appropriate discussions that need to be pushed forward will present themselves. With that being said, I know that the last meeting was March 7th, and so that again, there's a couple of discussions that have happened since then. I want to focus on discussions that folks that are here. I know this is something that's live on chain right now, and is scheduled to close tomorrow. But again, there's active discussion, questions from the community. Those questions have been answered. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about or has any other questions about Coinbase learning rewards and quests proposal right now. But this is a great example of, again, a discussion that has a lot of folks asking detailed questions, and so that gets pushed forward very quickly. But does anyone have any comments or questions on Coinbase learning rewards and quests proposal before we continue on? Cool. All right. Another item that has come up in the last couple of weeks and is around this one that Anil just talked about at SIG clients yesterday. Piyush, who worked on the website revamp, has been working with the NetADAO team, and the POC that they demoed was around making it easier for folks, whether they're building websites or they're Dockerizing anything, to basically streamline and automate a little bit of that containerization process through CloudMos. Again, they gave a demo at SIG clients, so I don't want to go into great detail here, but they are looking for feedback from the community on their idea. I would ask that if you're on this call, steering committee or member of the community, you just look at this proposal, because again, NetADAO team as well as the Human HQ team spent some time to put this together and worked on the proof of concept. Even if it's like, hey, this is not something that necessarily is needed by the network, or hey, this is a great idea that needs to be pushed forward, any feedback would be necessary or be welcomed. I know there's a couple of folks from the NetADAO team here. Again, this was discussed in great detail yesterday at SIG clients, but I do want to open it up to anybody from NetADAO if they want to give any high-level points on this specific discussion. Again, this is not even a proposal yet, but just a draft proposal looking for feedback. I know some of the NetADAO team might not be able to speak live, but again, if you have any questions, please drop them inside of this discussion so that you can get real-time feedback from the team that's working on it. Cool. We already talked about Akash Accelerate, which was again discussed by the community and has already passed on chain, so we don't have to go into detail there. Is there any other discussions that anybody wants to focus on here today that we haven't talked about as a group yet? Cool. All right. Well, if not, then we can continue to move on. But again, I urge everybody on this call, insiders and vanguards, I urge you all to get more community members that you see in general chat and other channels involved, and at least some of these discussions, right? And this could lead to a number of other ways that people can get involved with Akash. But everybody I know has an opinion, so please feel free to push people towards the discussions. Cool. BS just put in the chat, he's part of the NetADAO team. Just gave a little bit of quick summary. But again, please get involved in those discussions. All right, if there's nothing else related to discussions, then again, the last part of the agenda is related to just open it up to any questions. Does anybody have any specific questions that they want to ask of the steering committee or the community while we're all here? Cool. All right, I'll take that as a no. Cool. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I know it's been a fun-filled steering committee monthly meeting. As mentioned, there's a lot going on across a number of different projects, teams, etc. The special interest groups that happen, again, monthly, sometimes bi-weekly, are a great place to get into the weeds and get into the details about specific projects that are going on. I know that everybody on this call, everybody in this community is very, very busy, you know, building for Akash or, you know, just busy in general. So it'd be great to have constant communication, follow up, and consistency from folks in the special interest groups and working groups, so that, again, if you're working on something and then you disappear for a couple of months, it's on top of mind, or at least people have access to it. So just want to shout that out. And again, if anybody has any questions about ways to get involved, please feel free to reach out to myself, Adam, anybody from the core team, or vanguards, insiders, anybody from the community, because there's a number of clear ways in which people can get involved. Cool. Anything else that anybody wants to discuss before I let you go? All right. Well, again, happy Thursday, everybody. Thank you for your participation here today. Please look out for a number of special interest groups happening next week, the following weeks. So if you want to get involved in provider and client stuff, you know, which we talked about a little bit in detail today, please join those special interest groups for clients. If you have any provider-related questions, there's an active group of providers that meet monthly to talk about provider-related everything. So please feel free to join that group. And then again, SIG Chain will be happening next week or the week after, where we'll talk about network upgrades that are planned for the future. SIG Support is where you can get involved in a number of support issues related to the core product. And, you know, SIG Community, SIG Design, working group for Akash website. There's just a plethora of ways in which people can find a niche and find a way that they can get involved in supporting and growing Akash.